Now let's look at the 33.3 section. In 33.3, we deal with 3 guttural verbs. These are verbs that are weak on the back end. The guttural is in root 3 position. So I have my 3 root letters, 1, 2, and 3. The guttural is here. Guttural is in root 3. Okay, what's going to happen here? In the derived stems, the NIF through the HIFIL, whenever root 3 guttural occurs with a serré theme vowel under root 2, the guttural is going to do one of 2 things. It will try to force it into an A-class vowel. In fact, it'll try to force it into a pathak. And where do we have this sort of a situation? We'll look at our principal parts page and we'll see. Okay, otherwise, the few places leave the serré and adopt a furtive pathak under root 3 guttural. And we'll see a few examples of that too. But let's just take a quick look at your principal parts handout and look in the derived stems. Where do you see a serré theme vowel? So let's take a look real quick. So if you look at the principal parts page, what I've done is I've highlighted in the derived stems, so looking outside the cow, all the places where we have a serré. So do you see how we have a serré theme vowel in the NIF in the imperfect? Yipakade, right? And the WCI va yipakade. We've got it here with the imperative, hipakade, and the infinitive construct, and the jussive. So any of those forms, they have the serré. Okay, PLs get the serrés, pikade, yifakade, vifakade, and so forth. The hithpael, hithpakade, yithpakade, root 2's got a serré here. And then the hifil, remember the hifil has 4 places where, instead of the Keurig yod, I get a serré theme vowel when there's no inflectional ending. Okay? So those are the places where we could see, if we had a guttural in root 3 position, there's going to be some problems here, because gutturals prefer what vowel class? A-class, and so the preceding serré might be converted to an A-class pathak. Let's look at the NIF stem and just see a couple of the examples where this sort of thing happens. So the NIF imperfect for a verb like shalach. Shalach means to send in the cow. Okay, shalach is to send. The NIF would mean to be sent. To be sent. It would make it passive. All right. What sort of vowel pointing would I be looking at in the formation of the NIF imperfect here? Here's what I would like to see. I would like to see something like ye, sha, lech. Right? Yipakade, yishalech. Yishalech. Do you see the serré under root 2 and a guttural in root 3 position? What's the chet going to force the serré to do here? It's going to say, give me a not a compound shava, but give me a pathak. Okay? So I'm going to see yesha lach instead of yeshalech. Okay? Now, if I gave this to you and said parse it, could you do it? Well, if you remember that the Keurig under the yod prefix and the doubling dot in root 1 with the kametz is part of the NIF imperfect yipakade formula, then you should still be able to parse it as a NIF imperfect, okay? The third masculine plural imperfect would be ye, sha, le, chu, right? Yishalechu. When the chet goes with the shurik, the lamed's open and pre-tonic, it will reduce. What does it reduce to? It reduces to a vocal shava. Because under a lamed, I can put a vocal shava, can't I? That's not a guttural. So yishalechu, yishalechu. And then I could see a metheg here to then tell me that that is indeed a long A and that the shava is vocal. So yishalechu, yishalechu. So the serré becoming a pathak happens here because the serré has to be there, but the chet forces it into an A vowel. When I add my vocalic endings, that vowel reduces the vocal shva anyway, so I don't have to worry about it. Now, what about the imperative? What's the imperative? Looking at your principal parts, you should have that principal part sheet in front of you. How should this look in the imperative 2MS? It should be he, sha, lech. Hishalech. What does it actually become? Well, because chet is root 3 guttural, sere before it becomes what? It becomes pathak, doesn't it? Hishalech becomes hishalach due to the guttural and root 3 position. What would the 2MP look like? Pretty much will look like the 3MP imperfect, except I'd have a hey. He, sha, le, hu. With no vowel under the lam, and I'd get a reduction to vocal shava. Hishalech, hishalechu, hishaluchu. Okay? And then the infinitive construct, what would that look like? What's the infinitive construct form for the nifl? That's right. I'd be looking for the sere here, right? Hishalech. What actually happens in this form? The chet's a guttural. What's it going to do? Same thing, right? It's going to ask for an A-class vowel because it prefers that. So hishalach. Hishalach. Now, for the infinitive absolute in the nifl, you could get the noon prefix form or the hey prefix form, and Ross uses the noon prefix form, so it's nish, and it takes a holam vav and the furtive pathak. So that's the nifl absolute using the noon prefix. Nish loach. Nish loach. All right, so there you go. The guttural is preceded by a long vowel, and it can get a furtive pathak here. So nish loach. So that's the nifl. Again, we're just trying to recognize what we're seeing here. Okay? Just trying to recognize what we're seeing and what's going on. These A-class vowels that we're seeing where we normally want a sere are due to the guttural. Okay? That's what's happened. Let's look at the PL now. The PL of shalach, what would that look like if it were a normal verb form? The PL perfect would be she, kirik, doubling dot in root 2. And then I should get a sere here, shilech, shilech. In the PL, this verb means to send away, and it could mean to divorce. Okay? So it would be shilech. The chet is a guttural. The sere theme vowel then will be converted to a what? Pathak. It's an A-class vowel. Shilach. Shilach. Okay? Third 3CP. She, le, hu. The vowel reduces to a vocal shava. Get the shurik here. They sent away. Shilach, he sent away. Shilchu, they sent away. All right? The imperfect PL, what would that look like? It would be ye, sha, doubling dot, lech, but the chet causes the sere preceding to become a pathak. Yishalach. Yishalach. He will send away. They will send away. Ye, sha, le, hu. That's normal. Because the sere couldn't stay if I wanted it to. Imperative. How do I form the imperative? I take the prefix conjugation and chop off the prefix. So what would that look like? Sha, lech. But the chet says, give me a pathak. Shalach. Shalach. 2MP. If I want to tell a group of men, send someone away. Shalech becomes sha, le, hu. Shallahu. And then the last one, and this is noticed in the Ross textbook, the participle for the PL has the mem prefix, m, sha, lech. Okay? Here, I would expect my sere to be converted to a pathak, but in this one form, the sere remains, but the chet as a strong guttural gets one of those sneaky furtive pathaks that come in. So it's mushaleach. Mushaleach. Okay? So that would be translated as sending away. So that's the PL. And then the hifil. So Ross gives you shema as the form to analyze here. The hifil of shema means to cause someone to hear, which means to announce. Okay? Now, what would the hifil perfect look like? It should look like something like this. Hish, mi. Got a kirik yod and a furtive pathak. He caused to hear. He announced. Hish, mia. The imperfect, it would be yash, mia. The participle, mash, mia. And the infinitive construct, hash, mia. All of those have the kirik yod theme vowel. They all have the different prefixes. The perfect always has an I class. All the other prefixes have an A class vowel. Okay? The only place I'm weak here, right? This is all normal at the front end. It's the back end that's weak. And the only weakness that's exhibited here is that I get the furtive pathak with the ayin, because that's a strong guttural. But we're also having to keep in mind that sometimes in the hifil strong verb, in the principal parts, I get a sere under root 2. There were 4 forms that show sere. The WCI would have been yash me. Va yash me. All right? Va yaf kade. Va yash me. That's the WCI principal part. But notice the sere has an ayin right after it. This theme vowel is going to be forced into an A-class vowel because the ayin as a guttural prefers A-class vowels. So we get va yash ma. Va yash ma. And he caused to hear. The jussive also should be yashme, but the ayin says, give me an A. Yashma. Let him cause to hear. Imperative has a hey prefix with a pathak, silent shava, and it would have been a sere, hashme, but it becomes hashma because of the ayin. And then finally, the infinitive absolute. Remember, the infinitive absolute differs from the infinitive construct in the hifil, not on the front side, but on the back side. Hashmia versus hashme. And here, it does not get converted to a pathak. It actually stays sere, and I get a furtive pathak here. So hashmea is the infinitive absolute of the hifil of shema. Okay? Now, you might be sitting here asking yourself, I feel like my brain's about to explode. How can I remember this? Well, the good news is I'm not going to ask you to reproduce this. I'm going to ask you to parse it. Can you parse a form like yash ma? The answer is, I know you don't believe this, but you can. You see you've got 3 root letters. You have a yod prefix. What vowel is under the yod prefix? It's A-class. How many places do we get A-class vowels under normal circumstances under the nutty prefix? There is only one place that normally does that. That is the hifil stem. Okay? So this is the hifil. It's either the hifil imperfect or the hifil jussive. Here's the question. If I had a hifil imperfect, what would my theme vowel be? It's normally kirik yod. Okay? If it's jussive, it's normally sere. I don't have a Keurig yod here. I don't have a sere here. But which one of those vowels becomes pathak before a guttural in root 3 position? The sere does. So this is a hifil jussive. Okay? So if you can remember that, you could parse it. Okay? How would you be able to do it? You've got to know your strong verb. That's the really important thing here. Okay. Let's look at the last part of the chapter. This is 33.4. Here, we're not just dealing with 3 guttural verbs, but we're dealing with 3 aleph verbs. 3 aleph verbs are weak by being both 3 guttural and having some special weaknesses that the aleph has. What are the peculiar weaknesses of aleph when it's in root 3 position? Well, first of all, whenever aleph is in a closing syllable, if aleph is trying to close the syllable, it quiesces. When it quiesces, it loses its consonantal value, it loses its vowel pointing, it is not pronounced, and it can affect the preceding vowel, usually by compensatory lengthening. And then in the derived stems, especially, the quiescent aleph exhibits a noticeable pattern with consonantal endings. Remember, consonantal endings are the inflectional endings that begin with a consonant. We're going to look at these in just a second. But in the perfect, the aleph is going to have a sere right before it. And in the imperfect, if I have a consonantal ending, the aleph will have a segol right before it in the derived stems. So let's take a look at these forms, okay? You have this table in front of you. And here's what I want to do. I want to show you the different weaknesses that we can see. Take a look at the cow perfect of the verb matzah, which means to find. Okay? So matzah, to find. What is the normal vowel pointing of the cow perfect? It's long A, short A, right? Pakad has a long A followed by a short A. Why do I have a long A here in matzah, he found? That's right. Yes, the aleph is closing, it quiesces, the short pathak has compensatorily lengthened to a long A, which is a kametz. Okay? Now, look at the NIF perfect. What is the normal vowel pointing for the verb pakad? NIF kad normally has a pathak, right, under the theme vowel, or as a theme vowel. NIF kad. NIF kad. Why do I have a long A here? Because aleph quiesced. And that became long. Okay? So I just want you to see that this is actually not that surprising. You're already accustomed to aleph doing things like this. Now, what about those consonantal endings? Where do we have consonantal endings? And what's the difference between consonantal endings versus vocalic endings? Consonantal endings, say for the perfect, are ta, right? T, T, and so forth. These are the endings that start with a consonant. Look at the perfect forms in those consonantal endings as opposed to the vocalic endings, Keurig yod or shurik or kamete. Where do we have the consonantal endings? They are here in the derived stems. Ta, T, T. I've just given you the singular forms. And what is the vowel before the quiescent aleph here? Notice it's sere, right? That's true in the nifal. Look at the PL. It's got a sere before the aleph as well. Look at the pual. Those are my consonantal endings. Guess what? I have a sere before those. This is true all the way throughout the paradigm. Sere aleph whenever I have a consonantal ending. Okay? The hifil, I have the sere. So, point being that this pattern holds that we've given you. If you have a perfect conjugation, doesn't matter what the stem is, if it's a derived stem, add a consonantal ending after it, the aleph quiesces, but the preceding vowel is sere. In the imperfect, if I have a consonantal ending, it's segol, followed by the quiescent aleph. So go to the imperfect. What is the consonantal ending on the imperfect? It's the ending na. Okay, na. When I have the na ending, what is the vowel before the quiescent aleph? Segol. In all the derived stems. Okay, take a look. Na, quiescent aleph, segol before it. Nifal, PL, pual. Okay, so we're seeing the same pattern. I'm not going to walk you through every single thing. I just wanted you to see that that what I've told you here actually shows up in the chart. Okay, Sere aleph when it's perfect conjugation with consonantal endings. Sego aleph if it's the imperfect or prefix conjugation with the consonantal ending na. All right, so that's basically the three gutturals, both regular three gutturals and three aleph.